Hi folks, this is Jay. Hope you're okay today. It's good to be with you. I just want to say a few more thoughts on Immanuel Kant's Critique of Pure Reason. If you go further down the list of this channel, you'll find a video where I debate and discuss with an atheist on the Critique of Pure Reason. And it's a very good debate and discussion, and it's a good introduction to Kant. And I just want to share a few more thoughts, just give you a broader perspective of Kant, and I hope these thoughts will be a help to you. In 1779, you had the French Revolution. The revolutionaries were able to get 38,000 arms and storm the fortress and storm the Bastille. That was a major influence in the development of thinking in the West, because it was a cry for freedom against religion and against anything that tried to control people. This violent revolution shattered the whole of Europe. Now, Kant was at the height of this revolutionary fervor. He was the one that gave the revolution an intellectual foundation, and it's important to remember that. On the one hand, you have these great political convulsions like the French Revolution, but at the same time you have this quiet Prussian writing quietly in his study, and yet this quiet writing of Critique of Pure Reason was the intellectual foundation for people wanting to be free politically and against tradition. Kant was born in 1724 in Prussia, which was part of the Germany, and Prussia was a very powerful nation, had a very powerful army in it, and really influenced a lot of nations with its military power. And Kant was brought up in a very religious atmosphere, and when he grew up, he began to study and get his degree and all the rest of it. And it was said of Kant, he said, "This all change frightens me." And that kind of sums the character of Kant up. He became a very routine kind of guy. You could set your watch to the time of what he was doing, because he was that systematic and regular in his way of doing things. And he became a lecturer in philosophy, and like you said, that all change frightens me. He lived a regular clockwork kind of life where he didn't want any instability in his life. When he was giving his lectures, one of the great things he used to say to his students is, "Stand on your own 2 feet, think for yourself." These are words that he used to his students regularly. Think for yourself, stand on your your own 2 feet intellectually. And again, you have to put that in the context of what was happening around him. There was this intellectual and political revolution. And the foundation of Critique of Pure Reason and his major writings, for Kant, the key to all his writing and to all his work was the issue of freedom. He was influenced heavily by Rousseau, a French philosopher. And Rousseau noticed that all around him men should be free, but they're in chains. And that statement sums up the Enlightenment, that people wanted to break free from tradition, from political powers that seemed to control them. And Rousseau gave expression for that, and Kant bought into that, the importance that people would be free. He once said that in future years we will see republics, and people becoming free. So in his Critique of Pure Reason, freedom, uh, and the same goes in the rest of his writings, is absolutely key concept to his thinking. And during the Enlightenment, there were two languages, two kind of languages that were being used to bring down tradition, to bring down religion, to bring down any social structure that would stop people, as Kant and his colleagues would think, as free. And those two words were corrupt and irrational. That the intellectual elites, that the powers that are controlling people at the time, were basically irrational and corrupt. And so Enlightenment philosophers waded in on anything that stopped freedom and called those opponents corrupt and irrational. Now, the other thing that goes into the critique of pure reason, and when he talks about the critique of pure reason, the idea of pure reason, what he means is metaphysics. Prior to him writing that book, philosophers had spent hours and years and centuries talking about, is there a soul, etc., and all these kind of metaphysical kind of debates and discussions. So what Kant wanted to do is kind of take this and critique it, show which is truly rational, which is truly empirical, and he would call these people, these metaphysical questions, and the people who advocated them, as dogmatists. But at the same time, he was also dealing with the empiricists. They were the ones who saw knowledge as purely scientific, but they were not willing to deal with their presuppositions. And at the same time, he wanted to deal with the dogmatists or the rationalists because they were not willing to face up to the importance of empiricism. And so he tried to build a bridge between the two. But behind Kant's critique of pure reason was the idea of criticism. He stated that everything should be subjected to criticism, and if it's not subject to criticism, it'll be subject to ridicule. And so he was saying that even religion has to come under criticism. So we're seeing a philosopher, and we're seeing a period of time where intellectual vigor in critiquing opposing ideas, traditions, social structures, were coming under the light of a critical analysis. And so again, the cry for his criticism would be, think for yourself. Kant saw that the way to a good life and the way to be good is to think for yourself. This was the true knowledge. This is what it was to be rational. That as you think for yourself, you become a good man. Now, it is said that the Critique of Pure Reason is a badly written book. It's badly written in style. It's repetitive, but in the bad style and in the repetitiveness, there is some golden nuggets. That there are some foundational golden thoughts that we can get hold of and we can run with and we can think about. Now, from a Christian point of view, they might be philosophical gold, but whether they are gold in terms of standing up for Christianity, I don't think they are. And I think that Kant's project was really an attack on Orthodox Christianity. I know that many people would disagree with that, but I think that's the case. Because what he's doing is he's not saying there isn't a God, he's not saying that we can't say there is a God, but he is definitely saying that he can't be defended rationally. And, Christians would disagree with that. So again, he was, in his book, Critique of Pure Reason, he was dealing with a rationalist who kind of a theoretical knowledge such as mathematics, and starting from axioms and deductions within logic, and building up understanding of what we believe from axiomatic logical deductions. Um, and that meant that he often used ideas, and these ideas were not rooted in any evidence. And then on the other side, he was critiquing the empiricists, who was not willing to discuss the presuppositions that they had. For Kant, for Kant, one of the key things is about how, in his critique of pure reason, was about how we view the world. For Kant, he would say that the world possibly existed, but we cannot know the world in its essence. That our perceptions color the world and actually shape the world, so that what we're seeing is not really the world, but is what our experience is. But there is a world there, and we are experiencing the world. So there's a kind of contradiction within what he's saying. But it's definitely a case that Kant believes that we cannot fully engage with the world in our perception, but that we can know something of the world. But that the subject, the person experience the world, is shaping how we see the world. Kant discussed the boundaries of reason, tried to show the limitations of reason, tried to show that the brain works on certain rules and has certain innate perceptions such as time and space, that these were not evidential scientific things that we discover, but time and space is already at work in our mind, and he was able to differentiate that. He believed that scientific ideas of God were not possible and should be put on one side, and treated in a different way from rational or evidential positions. For Kant, all his philosophical reflection in the end should lead to practice. He was not interested in just doing theoretical philosophy. For Kant, he really ultimately wanted to see how his philosophy worked out in practice. That was very important for Kant. He was not some imaginary, isolated philosopher who was not interested in real life. He was a man who was genuinely interested in how his philosophy worked. And so after Critique of Pure Reason, he wrote on ethics and other subjects that were important about how we conduct our life in this world. But the Critique of Pure Reason was the intellectual foundation that helped him to go on to write about ethics. As I said before, space and time are two concepts that Kant discusses within his Critique of Pure Reason, and shows that they are presuppositional, that is to say, they are already working within our mind, and not just that we come to know these things by sense perception. He then goes on to say that the mind thinks in certain conceptual ways, such as one of them, and he made a number of them, are that the mind thinks in unity, etc. So that's the Critique of Pure Reason. In the area of ethics, Kant believed that, as opposed to a number of Enlightenment thinkers, I think, as opposed to Rousseau, he believed that ethics was to be conducted under general laws, that to be truly rational was to go against your desires. Now, there were many philosophers, such as Rousseau, who believed that we should follow our desires and these are what dictate what we should do. But Kant was saying, no, we must have rules or laws. And these general laws, if we are going to be noble in our nature and fulfill the calling of reason, then reason will state that certain desires are not helpful. So reason controls them. And that is under these various rules or laws of ethics, etc. These moral laws can be reduced to duty, and duty is a necessity, which shows an aspect of respect to law. And he kind of believed that because there are these laws, and if we obey them, then they are commands that we have to obey. So that's just generally about Kant. I think that for Christians, we can learn from Kant. He's got a lot of interesting things to say, and he can help you to think deeply. At the same time, Kant was very impatient in trying to read other people's works. He said that he couldn't read other people's works and had to get others read it for him. So at the end of the day, he's only a philosopher, and yet people have treated him like some kind of intellectual god. And I think we have to be careful of hero worship. Secondly, I think there were contradictions in Kant's system, because he's saying that we must base everything on rationality and empiricism. And that was based on this issue that we are free, and that was the heart of Kant's project, that we are free. But he admitted that one could not give any reasons why we have freedom, that we have freedom of the will. He admitted this, and yet he goes on to say that we have to continue to act. So on the one hand, he writes a book critiquing metaphysics, but at the same time, his own position he can't substantiate with scientific evidence of free will. But all in all, if you want to understand the debates that are going on about presuppositional apologetics, if you want to understand philosophy, Kant's Critique of Pure Reason is a good book to read, and it gets you into the topics of philosophy in a really good way. So thank you for listening, and God bless you. I'm going to finish now, and so take care. God bless.